they really just are not worth the effort anymore. Would you want to eat a sandwich that 10 other guys had already taken a bite out of? No? Okay, well, what about if it was only like 2 or 3 random guys that already took a bite out of the sandwich? Would you want to eat it then? No? Even if it was a really, really good looking sandwich? Still no? You wouldn't want to eat it? Really? Well, yeah, duh. Of course you wouldn't want to eat after a bunch of random guys already took a bite out of your sandwich. You want a whole sandwich all to yourself. You want your sandwich to be untouched before you get to it. And this really doesn't require that much thought. It's just obvious. Who would be okay with eating a sandwich that other people had already eaten off of? Nobody would be okay with that, obviously. Okay, so somebody tell me why. Why are we expected to have lower standards for the woman we choose to marry than the standards we have for our lunch? There was a study where women of different ages were asked how many men they've been intimate with, and for women aged 20 to 24, 65% had already been with at least 2 men. Of course, we all know how honest women tend to be with this sort of information, so you could go ahead and multiply all these numbers by 1.5 at least. But even if we take the numbers at face value, that's 2/3 of all sandwiches already ruined by the age of 24. Or, I mean, women, whatever. And 13% said they'd already had 10 or more partners. That's insane. Imagine if you went to Jimmy John's and you ordered a roast beef sandwich and 10 random guys got to take a bite out of your sandwich before you even got to see it. There'd be hardly anything left. They hand you the bag and you're just standing there like, why is this bag so light? Why does it look like someone already unwrapped my sandwich? You know, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. That is not ideal. And I know some of y'all are thinking, but loser maxing, women aren't sandwiches. It's not like women actually lose anything when they let a guy take a bite. Okay, fair enough. But let me ask you this. Imagine a bowl of clam chowder that 10 random guys have taken a big ol' slurp from. But after each slurp, more chowder gets added back to the bowl, so the total amount of clam chowder is the same by the time you get to it. It's the same amount it was in the beginning. Does that sound appetizing? Do you want to eat that bowl of clam chowder? Of course not. It's fucking disgusting. A bunch of random guys had already dipped their spoons into it. No, thank you. When I eat a bowl of soup, I want it to be a fresh, hot bowl of soup that nobody else has ever eaten out of, okay? And I don't think that's too much to ask, or it shouldn't be. It's like that movie, The Platform. If you haven't seen it, basically the concept is it's a prison where all the prison cells are stacked on top of each other. So there's like 100-something levels of individual prison cells. And every day there's a platform full of delicious gourmet food. Like a lot of food, enough for probably 100 people or more. But the platform starts at the top, then it slowly descends down to the cells on the lower levels. So by the time the platform gets like 50 floors down, all the food is already gone. But you see, in the movie, even by the time the platform gets to level 3 or 4, all the food that's left is already just absolutely disgusting, just ruined. You know, because the people that got the platform first, they just slobber all over everything. They're walking on the platform, stepping all over all the food, taking bites out of different things. It's bad. You know, it's really gross. Okay? Well, look, the average age of marriage for a woman in the United States is 28.6 years old. From that study I mentioned earlier, of women aged 25 to 29, okay, so this is women of prime marrying age, 76% of those women have already had 2 or more other men dog them out. Only 25% of women in the average marriage age demographic are actually even possibly wife material. By the way, I don't like how the lowest category on this is 0 to 1 partners. That is a really big difference. Also, I know I already said this, but you should assume that the real numbers are actually higher than what is reported here. I actually looked into it, and this data comes from in-person, face-to-face interviews. Okay, so they actually asked women in person how many men they've slept with. Okay, so you better believe a lot of those women probably underreported their true numbers. Obviously, that's the case. It might be more accurate if this was conducted as an anonymous survey where it was a form that people could fill out on the internet. But you ask a woman right to her face how many ding-dongs she done sung songs with, there's no way you're getting a truthful response from most women. I mean, am I really supposed to believe that 25% of women aged 25 to 29 have only had 1 or 0 partners? There's no way that's true. But even if it was, sheesh, that's still not a good outlook. I mean, the pickings are real slim here, fellas. Or, well, they're actually fat, probably, most of them. But I'm just saying, if you want a woman that hasn't already been ran through, then, good luck. But yeah, back to the analogy with the platform, the movie, the platform full of food is a lot like a woman. At the beginning, she's untouched, pure, desirable, just everything you could possibly want as a man. But then with each level the platform goes down as it's descending, the food just gets all used up, slobbered on, literally trampled underfoot. By the time it's gone past even like 2 or 3 levels, it's already really bad, just absolutely disgusting, basically inedible. And that's exactly how it is when a woman's had 2 or 3 partners already. It's exactly like that. They're just trampled on and gross, completely unappetizing. But look at the data. 76% of women of prime marrying age have already descended past 2 levels. And that's just what they admit to. And they didn't even ask them how many ding-dongs they sucked on. They only asked about actual intercourse. So, yeah, the reality is actually a lot worse than the data suggests. We can safely assume that. And a person's past does matter, by the way. When you're evaluating someone as a potential lifelong partner, you absolutely should care about how they have behaved in the past. Past behavior is the number 1 best predictor of future behavior. Okay? If a woman's just been bouncing from hot dog to hot dog her entire adult life, just voluntarily getting ran through like a freaking, I don't even know what, then she's probably not going to want to stop bouncing around on different hot dogs. Okay? I don't care what she says. I don't care if she's made a sacred vow or whatever. Her past predicts her future. I'm tired of seeing this simp Redditor argument that a woman's past doesn't matter. Who cares about how many guys she's been with? All that matters is that she's with you now. Nope, wrong. Body count does matter. In fact, I'd say it's probably one of, if not the most important factor in determining how desirable a woman is. Yes, looks are important. Overall personality is important. I don't want a nosy, nagging, annoying, quirky girl autist that's always trying to talk about social justice or something. But I mean, if she's generally pleasant enough to be around and she has a body count of 0 before me, then you know what? She can be a full-on social justice warrior, Labubu girl autist for all I care. All I want is a girl that's never been with anyone else but me. And she's pleasant to be around. And yeah, I know, I'm not getting that, okay? I understand. That's never going to happen. I'm not going to find that woman. I'm pretty sure I'm not getting with any woman at this point, but I'm talking about preferences, okay? These are my preferences. And frankly, I think most men prefer a woman with a low body count. Because, duh, of course they do. Just, how could you live with yourself being with a woman when every time you hold hands, you know you're holding a hand that's been wrapped around multiple other dicks? That's disgusting. You should be embarrassed if you are in that situation. I mean, imagine looking at your fiance in the eyes and telling her you love her, but at the same time, you know those same eyes you're looking at have also made eye contact with some other guy or guys before you while part of them was in her mouth. It's so disgusting and embarrassing, obviously. I really don't understand how people try to act like they don't have a problem dating a woman with a high body count. Do you not have any self-respect? And yes, by the way, part of the reason I care about body count is because of my own insecurity. Yeah, I'm insecure about it. I don't know how that's supposed to be some big gotcha. Like, oh, you're just insecure. A woman with some experience makes you feel insecure, you little loser. Like, yes, of course. Of course I would feel insecure being in a relationship with a woman that has a history of being loose with her affection. If I'm in a relationship with a woman, that means all her affection is supposed to be for me. That's literally the most fundamental, basic aspect of a romantic relationship. That we only do those certain things with each other. We only share that part of ourselves with each other. Nobody else. So, no shit, I'm going to be insecure about being with someone that's already shared that part of herself with a bunch of other random dudes she probably barely even knew. And yes, as a man, especially in my younger years, if I had had the ability to boink a lot of hot girls, regardless of how well I knew them beforehand, yes, I probably would have done it. Even now, today, if a random attractive woman approached me and offered to let me do it with her, no strings attached, I probably would. So, am I a hypocrite for that? No, I'm not. I'm a man. And generally speaking, women are attracted to men that have had more partners. That's just one of the many natural differences between men and women. Men prefer a woman that has never been with anyone else, and women tend to prefer a man that's already been pre-approved by lots of other women. I mean, essentially, I think what it all boils down to is just that people tend to value a person's ability to overcome. For men, the default state, if you just exist and don't put in any effort, the default state is being a virgin and being chronically lonely. A man has to overcome adversity to get with a woman, okay? It's a challenge. It's not something that's easy to do for most men. Generally speaking, of course. Obviously, there are some guys that are just born with Chad genetics and they don't even really have to try. But for most of us, getting with or just attracting women is something that requires some amount of effort. So that's why a man with a lot of partners is seen as attractive. But for a woman, it's easy to hook up. They're getting offers left and right every day, everywhere they go. So for a woman to have a low body count, that shows a great deal of modesty. She has to constantly resist men's advances. That shows that she has strength of character. So that's why men prefer women with lower body counts. Okay, it shows that she has a good head on her shoulders. She has strength of character. She's modest. Those are all things that most men value in a partner. And I know that's not the whole story, that's not the only reason that men prefer women with a low body count, but that is part of it. But we also can't underestimate the ick factor. Like, if a woman's been with a lot of different guys, it really is just gross. And I don't care how good her hygiene is, it's still disgusting. Again, think of like a roast beef sandwich. If you knew that even one random man has rubbed his balls and wiener on that sandwich, you obviously would not want to eat that sandwich, even if the sandwich was fully washed and cleaned afterward. Let's say, hypothetically, there was a way to wash a sandwich where it's just 100% clean and sanitized, and the taste is not affected, so it would still taste good too. Now, be honest here. You still would not want to eat that sandwich, would you? Even if it has been fully washed of all man germs, just the fact that a man's parts have been in contact with that sandwich, that's enough to make you not want to eat that sandwich and just not want it anywhere near your mouth. Okay, so say what you will, but I, for one, do have higher standards for women than I do for sandwiches. Am I wrong for that? Is it really wrong for me to expect more from a living, breathing, sentient human being than what I expect from a fucking submarine sandwich? I mean, it's right there in the data, straight from the horse's mouth. Most women have had way too many partners. But that's not even the only thing. That's not the only reason why women aren't even worth pursuing these days. See, modern women tend to have very high expectations. They've grown up in a society that caters to their every whim and desire, a society that is designed from the ground up around the basic principle of maximizing women's freedom of choice while also maximizing women's freedom from consequences. Modern society is basically a playground for young women. So, obviously, they're going to have crazy high expectations. And I am speaking in generalities here, okay? Obviously, there do exist some women that go against the grain, but yeah, for the most part, their standards are just inflated through the roof. So even if you do manage to lock down an attractive young unicorn woman with a low body count, you can probably expect her to be testing you constantly, always putting you through the ringer, making you prove your worth. Because she can do that. She can easily replace you. Even if you already got hitched, you already got married, you can never relax. You cannot let your guard down for a second around modern women. No-fault divorce is a thing. And divorce is hardly even taboo in this society. You're always going to be tested, okay? So I can imagine how exhausting that must be. As a kid growing up, we're always told this fairy tale of how wonderful and amazing marriage is. Like, you get to spend every single day and night together with somebody you're in love with, and she loves you back. Sign me up. That sounds tremendous. That's all I've ever wanted. But as you get older, you start to see all the cracks in that mirage. I know for a lot of us, we learn it from our parents. I know in my case, my parents used to fight all the time. They finally got divorced when I was, I think, 17 or 18. But before that, they would just always be screaming at each other. They hardly ever slept in the same bed. They would take turns sleeping on the couch. I mean, it was tough as a kid, having that as my model for what a relationship looks like. I don't even think I ever saw my parents kiss. They just... they didn't really like each other. And it was tough to see that. But at the same time, it's not like that's anything out of the ordinary. That's a normal modern relationship, really. Now, I'm not going to act like my dad is a saint and my mom's an evil wench. They both made mistakes, but it definitely was my mom that was the bigger strain in the relationship. She would always be nagging my dad, trying to convince him to go to college part-time or try to get a promotion at work or something. then she would also waste inordinate amounts of money on useless things like a treadmill she never used. And she really should have used it, by the way. That's another thing, when my parents got married, my mom was skinny. She was in good shape. I can even remember her being slim back in my earliest memories. But then she got fat. She got obese. She would burp at the table, she stopped caring. She was gross. It was like she really just didn't care anymore. And again, my dad is far from perfect, but imagine getting married to the love of your life. Then you have a kid, and then she promptly proceeds to get real fat and real gross, and it's like she just gives up completely. And I'm not saying women have to look exactly the same after childbirth as they did before, but she didn't even try. She just let herself go. And that's not uncommon. That's pretty damn normal, actually. You always hear women talking about how they just can't lose the baby weight, or they just don't have any time anymore to work out or whatever. But that's all excuses. If she wanted to look good for you, then she would. If your woman respects you and she loves you, then she will try to be attractive for you. So if she's not trying, then, it's over, basically. But that's really the more common situation, especially if you're not a Chad. If you're an average-looking guy, you're always going to have to be on guard. You're always going to be getting tested. You can never relax. Around your own wife, you cannot relax. It's exhausting. But it is what it is, that is the reality that we are living in. Women will always test you, which is obviously exhausting. And most of them these days, their body counts are just way too high, like disgustingly high, which does matter. It matters a lot. So that's why I really just feel like women are not worth it anymore. They are not worth pursuing. Isn't love supposed to be easy? Isn't it supposed to be something that just happens? It's just automatic? I don't know. Maybe that was never true, but I'd be willing to bet it was at least a little bit better back in the day, in the past, back when there were actual social consequences for a woman that chose to sleep around all willy-nilly. Back when women did not get constant validation from a magic rectangle in their pocket, constantly buzzing with another notification telling them yet another random Chad wants to boink her brains out. I'm guessing in the relatively recent past, women on average just acted better. They probably weren't quite as hedonistic and demanding and egotistical, because the factors that drive them to be that way were not all in place back in the day. Social media, constant validation, overly feminized, gynocentric society, whatever, things have changed a little bit over the years. I'm not saying everything was better in the past, but might have been more worth it back then, putting in the effort to get with a woman. Might have been more worth it. Because right now, at this point in time, I feel like there's really no good reason to even try to get with women. I already know it's not going to work. And even if I knew I could eventually get some action, if I really worked at it and, just put in the reps, worked on my social skills and everything, even if I knew I would be able to attract a woman eventually, it still wouldn't be worth the headache that comes after that. So what's the point? What's the deal here? It's not a good deal for men at this point. It's not a good bargain for men at this point. There's no social contract. Everything's fucked. If you liked the video or you found anything I said thought-provoking, please check out some of my other videos. I also have a Patreon where you can get access to exclusive videos as well as a little parody book I wrote. But that's just if you want to show some extra support. But it also helps me a lot just to watch my videos on here. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.